Alright, welcome back everyone, and hello and thanks to all the new subscribers. Today we're going to look at Little Women. This is a really famous novel. We've got a subtitle which is Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, the names of the four primary characters here. And we can see them on this beautiful cover surrounded by a garden of roses, and then the author's name at the bottom, Louisa M. Alcott. And on the spine we can see the same sort of thing, so we see the title, which is Little Women, and then a bouquet of roses shown here, Louisa M. Alcott, and the publisher at the base of the spine, and it's pretty hard to read that, the publisher there. So this is still in pretty good condition for how old it is. There is this sort of nasty stain on the back side there. Not sure what caused that. So let's open it up. We've got the first fly leaves, and then we've got a brief title page there, and then the full title page. Here we've got this beautiful frontispiece. It says, "They all drew to the fire, mother in the big chair with Beth at her feet." And this book is filled with beautiful illustrations. Little Women, or Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, by Louisa M. Alcott, author of Little Men, An Old-Fashioned Girl, Spinning Wheel Stories, etc., with more than 200 illustrations by Frank T. Merrill, and a picture of the home of the Little Women by Edmund H. Garrett, published in Boston by Little Brown and Company. And we can see that this edition was published, it looks like, in 1896. And this is a really wonderful preface here, with this woman releasing a dove from a window. And we've got this verse. It says, "Go then, my little book, and show to all that entertain and bid thee welcome shall, what thou dost keep close, shut up in thy breast. And wish what thou dost show them may be blessed, to them for good, may make them choose to be pilgrims better, by far than thee or me. Tell them of mercy, she is one who early hath her pilgrimage begun. Yea, let young damsels learn of her to prize the world which is to come, and so be wise. For little tripping maids may follow God along the ways which saintly feet have trod." And it says this is adapted from John Bunyan, who is the author of The Pilgrim's Progress. And as we'll see, The Pilgrim's Progress is sort of a common theme in this novel. It's repeatedly referred to. Here we have a really beautiful table of contents with another illustration. And I love these fonts, and they're just so beautiful. So this shows the first part with all the different chapters. And then here we have the second part. And these are sort of separated. I think the first part is mostly the four characters as children, and then the second part is mostly their adulthood. And then we've got this little cherub fellow with a key. A cool little illustration there. And then here's the list of illustrations, and this is really a cool idea. It shows all of these people looking at a gallery of pictures representing all the different illustrations in the book. It says, "The illustrations designed by Frank T. Merrill, drawn, engraved, and printed under the supervision of George T. Andrew." And this will give you a sense of just how many there are in here. 200 is what it said on the title page. So this is one of the reasons why this edition of the book is so great, just because of all of these detailed and beautiful illustrations. So here's 2 more pages tabulating those. And there's even an illustration at the end of the list of illustrations. Alright, so here we have the first chapter, which is called Playing Pilgrims. It starts with, "Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents," grumbled Jo, lying on the rug. And so that must be Jo in this picture. "It's so dreadful to be poor," sighed Meg, looking down at her old dress. "I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls nothing at all," added little Amy, with an injured sniff. "We've got father and mother and each other," said Beth contentedly from her corner. The 4 young faces on which the firelight shone brightened at the cheerful words, but darkened again as Joe said sadly, "We haven't got father, and shall not have him for a long time." She didn't say perhaps never, but each silently added it, thinking of father far away, where the fighting was. Nobody spoke for a minute, then Meg said in an altered tone, "You know the reason Mother proposed not having any presents this Christmas was because it is going to be a hard winter for everyone, and she thinks we ought not to spend money for pleasure, when our men are suffering so in the army. We can't do much, but we can make our little sacrifices, and ought to do it gladly. But I am afraid I don't." And Meg shook her head, as she thought regretfully of all the pretty things she wanted. "But I don't think the little we should spend would do any good. We've each got $1, and the army wouldn't be much helped by our giving that. I agree not to expect anything from Mother or you, but I do want to buy Undine and Sintram for myself. I've wanted it so long," said Joe, who was a bookworm. So this book is semi-autobiographical about the author's life. So Louisa Alcott, the author, grew up with 3 sisters, and so the 4 characters in this book represent the 4 of them. And Jo was sort of associated or represented the author herself. So whenever you see Jo speaking, it's sort of a representation of the author. So here's an image of John Bunyan writing The Pilgrim's Progress, which, like I was saying earlier, is referenced throughout the book. And on the right-hand side here, we can see images of the children acting out a scene from that story. So let's take a look here. So it says, Mrs. March broke the silence that followed Joe's words by saying in her cheery voice, "Do you remember how you used to play Pilgrim's Progress when you were little things? Nothing delighted you more than to have me tie my piece bags on your backs for the burdens, give you hats and sticks and rolls of paper, and let you travel through the house from the cellar, which was the city of destruction, up, up to the housetop, where you had all the lovely things you could collect to make a celestial city." So that's what this is showing here on the right. It's showing them making the ascent up the stairs to the top of the house here, mirroring the progress in the Pilgrim's Progress. And Joe says here, "What fun it was, especially going by the lions, fighting Apollyon and passing through the valley where the hobgoblins were," said Joe. "I liked the place where the bundles fell off and tumbled downstairs," said Meg. "My favorite part was when we came out on the flat roof where our flowers and arbors and pretty things were, and all stood and sung for joy up there in the sunshine," said Beth, smiling as if that pleasant moment had come back to her. "I don't remember much about it except that I was afraid of the cellar and the dark entry, and always liked the cake and milk we had up at the top. If I wasn't too old for such things, I'd rather like to play it over again," said Amy, who began to talk of renouncing childish things at the mature age of 12. So now I'm just going to showcase some of these illustrations, and there's a lot of them. So here we see the women playing the piano. This is the beginning of chapter 2, which is called A Merry Christmas. Here's another illustration showing all of them. And here's an illustration showing, I believe, Meg dressed up as sort of a witch-like character in a play. It says, "Out came Meg, with grey horsehair hanging about her face, a red and black robe, a staff, and cabalistic signs upon her cloak. Hugo demanded a potion to make Zara adore him, and one to destroy Rodrigo. Hagar, in a fine dramatic melody, promised both and proceeded to call up the spirit who would bring the love philtre. Hither, hither from thy home, airy sprite, I bid thee come. Born of roses, fed on dew, charms and potions canst thou brew. Bring me here with elfin speed the fragrant philtre which I need. Make it sweet and swift and strong, spare answer now my song. We can see Meg dressed as that character there. And then it continues. A soft strain of music sounded, and then at the back of the cave appeared a little figure in cloudy white, with glittering wings, golden hair, and a garland of roses on its head. Waving a wand, it sang, Hither I come from my airy home, afar in the silver moon. Take the magic spell and use it well, or its power will vanish soon. And then here we have a beautiful fairy illustration. So just a little bit more about the author of this book. Louisa Alcott, she was a feminist and an abolitionist, and she was active in the women's suffrage movement as well. So she was a pretty accomplished person. But today she's most remembered for writing this book. Oh, and here is this strange illustration. And this book, it's been referenced in a lot of popular media just because it's so famous, and one example of that is in video games. If anyone's played the Ocarina of Time, the Zelda game, there's the characters, the 4 ghosts in the Forest Temple are named after the 4 characters in this book, and there's all sorts of other references and other forms of media. Just something kind of interesting to note. Here's a nice little beehive. And then this is the beginning of chapter 12, Camp Lawrence. So we can see it starts with, Beth was postmistress, for, being most at home, she could attend to it regularly, and dearly liked the daily task of unlocking the little door and distributing the mail. One July day she came in with her hands full and went about the house, leaving letters and parcels like the penny post. So that illustration is showing her going into the post mailbox, I believe. Here's an illustration with somebody's nose clipped. Playing croquet. And then here's one of the full-page illustrations. The caption at the bottom says, "A very merry lunch it was." And we can see a whole group of people having a lunch picnic under a tree. Here's some more illustrations with multiple illustrations per page. This one is quite funny. Looks like a professor of some sort throwing a book at somebody. And that's kind of a gruesome one. So another thing about the author, Louisa Alcott, she had to work at an early age, just like the character in the book here, Joe, in order to support her family when they were going through some financial difficulties. Oh, I'll read this bit here. Laurie lay luxuriously swinging to and fro in his hammock one warm summer afternoon, wondering what his neighbors were about, but too lazy to go and find out. He was in one of his moods, for the day had been both unprofitable and unsatisfactory, and he was wishing he could live it over again. So that's showing one of the friends of the family, Laurie, sitting in a hammock, and there's the women again. And there's an image of an elderly woman there, and then an image of them leaning on a counter, just sort of flipping ahead. Here's another full-page illustration. Alright, with her head in Joe's lap while the wind blew healthfully over her. Another full-page illustration. So the latter portion of the book is them sort of entering into the different areas of adult life, I believe. So it's sort of a coming-of-age story. Oh, and here's a bookmark that was in this book when I got it. Just an interesting find. Looks like a Japanese bookmark. It says the Edo period. Compliments of John W. Rollins. Alright, so we're pretty much at the end of the book here. Let's take a look at this other full-page illustration, one of the last ones here. It says, leaving Mrs. March and her daughters under the festival tree. And then, like so many of these older books, we've got advertisements for other books at the end of it here. So this is for Louisa M. Alcott's other writings. And then a nice little design at the end there. And then this, I believe, is a reference to John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress, when the pilgrim leaves all of his trappings. Alright, so that's Little Women by Louisa M. Alcott. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please leave us a like and a comment, and consider subscribing. And also, if you're interested in getting some old books of your own that are similar to this, or I think even some of the ones that I've already shown I've got online, but go check out our AbeBooks page. The link will be in the description, but you can buy any of these if you're interested, and that helps support the channel too. I'm just taking a look at one of these illustrations here, just to end the video. A nice little ocean wave, and that's that. Alright, well, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.